This is Evolutionary Radio. This is your host, Trevor Kouritzin. We have a very interesting guest for you guys today. This guest you probably have not heard of. He is not a genetic freak. He is not a high-paid sponsored athlete. He is a guy who won his pro card by just grinding it out year after year. He's the epiphany of hard work. Steve, do you want to do the honors?
Yeah, Dave Savino. Is it Savino or Savino?
Savino, that's it.
That's good. It sounds Italian to me.
Yeah, that's right. 100% Italian.
So tell us a little bit about yourself for our listeners who haven't heard of you yet.
All right, great. Yeah, so like they said, I'm Dave Savino. Basically, a little high level is I had a buddy in college, Anthony, who was always pushing me to compete and would work on the poses with me. And then after college, he, was still pushing me to do it and told me about Vinny Galanti, another pro bodybuilder who was in my area. So I met up with Vinny, and he threw me in a show 3 weeks after I met him. Came in second in the bantamweight class. A few months later, I did the East Coast Championship, and I came in first in my class. And then Vinny said to me, he said, "Dave, if you do exactly what I say, you'll turn pro in a year." And that's pretty much what happened. I did exactly what he said. Next year rolled around. I did the East Coast Championship again, came in first. And then a couple weeks later, I went to the Miami Nationals, placed second in the bantamweight bodybuilding, and earned my pro card. So that's a little brief overview.
So how long were you training before you competed, though? Because you probably must have had a decent base if you got second at your first show. Yeah.
So, I mean, I had always – I started training in the gym seriously probably in college. I would work out in the gym throughout high school. I had one of my older brothers show me the way, and that's how it started. And I played baseball, so I'd work out with the team, things like that. But once I hit college, I would say it got serious, and I started really focusing on it and realizing how much that I loved and enjoyed being in the gym.
Cool. So how many years? So when you won your pro card, was that in college? Was that just after college, or like were you working?
Gotcha. Yeah. So, I mean, so if you go from, I was seriously training starting in college, so that was 4 years, and then about 5.5 years, because I got my pro card 18 months after. About 18 months after I graduated. Because I graduated, then I met Vinny, and 18 months later, I got my pro card. So maybe about 6 years, probably, about serious training. And another thing I should note is I was, at first, when I was in college, I was very, very stocky. And I had, I think I lifted a lot heavier. And I think that might have helped me develop some muscle mass, so that when I did, compete and do the shows and I trimmed down, I had some solid mass to hold me over.
Interesting.
So that's actually really good advice for new lifters. I like to put new lifters usually who are young on like the 5x5 program just to build a nice base. And then when they get older, they can kind of sculpt themselves more. So, I mean, it sounds like that's pretty much what you did. So is that something you recommend for our younger listeners who are maybe, 18, 20, 22, who are starting to get into weight training seriously? Is that something that they should kind of do their first few years?
Yeah. So I agree and I disagree, and I'll tell you why. So first of all, I think as far as training goes and the 5x5 program, I think that's great for them to start. But if there was one piece of advice that I could give earlier guys or tell myself, when I was younger, is that diet is a huge part of it. I was and eating the right foods, because I was caught up with, I had to consume a lot of calories. I had to eat all this food. And it kind of backfired because I had a lot of fat on me. Yeah, I was strong. I was big. I had a lot of mass, but if I would have trained the way I did and had a more structured diet, it would have benefited me more because I would have had less fat on me, and I probably would have had even more solid muscle.
Dave, that's a really good point. Give us some quantitative numbers and things our listeners can take home. Like, what's your diet look like now? And then what did your diet look like then? Were you kind of just doing the college seafood diet, eating lots of burgers, eating, what was ever being served?
Yeah. So, all right. Yeah. So back in college, it was that's basically what it was. I was eating I would have a lot of pasta because I felt that I needed a lot of carbs, burgers, crappy food. And yeah, I was a little overweight because of that. And then I would say junior year, just something hit me. And I was like, I want to go to the beach this summer and I don't want to be embarrassed to take my shirt off. And I started studying about food and everything. Then I went to an extreme of a caloric deficit of 1,000 calories. And I was eating chicken and brown rice for the little carbs that I did have. But my main protein source was chicken. And so that, with that diet, I shredded down. But then, like, as I met Vinny and I learned, I needed to eat more. It was eating more of the right foods. So now my diet on the off season now, it's basically I have 6 meals and it's pretty basic, to be honest. I have like a cup of veggies, 5 ounces of chicken or steak, and then I'll have a cup of carbs, usually like red potatoes or brown rice. And so that's generally, my first meal in the morning is usually eggs, 5 egg whites and 2 yolks. And then after that, I have 4 meals of veggies, protein, and a carb. And then at night, I have my protein shake.
Pretty simple.
I'm sorry?
Pretty simple.
Yeah. I mean, and I don't count my macros. Like, a lot of people ask me, how much fat are you consuming? How much of this, how much of that? I don't know. I just go, basically, what I do is I go by how my body feels and how I look. And I know I have it pretty much down to a science now where I know I'll eat my meals Monday, Tuesday, and then on Wednesday, I'll start feeling really fatigued and I'll start looking like really loose. My skin's hanging. And so then I figured out that Wednesday is the day I need to have, a cheat meal. So I'll have double cheeseburger, French fries, or something like that. And then Thursday, I look good again. I go back to my meals. Friday, back to my meals. And then usually Saturday is the same thing. I have a cheat meal at night, and it holds me over. I mean, it's not, it's everybody's different. And I think this off season is been very successful for me because of the fact that my diet, I have everything down to a science and I know my body now.
Good advice. What would you recommend for someone, a new lifter, someone who's not like you and isn't in tune with their body? If you could go back and you could, say Dave, the first year college guy, what advice would you give him on how to even start a diet?
So what I would do, if I could go back, basically I would start with a protein and some carbs. And I would have carbs with all my meals for, I don't know, maybe 3 weeks, 4 weeks, see how it goes. And then just take things out. So I would take out some carb meal. If I thought I wasn't losing enough weight, if I thought I was getting flabby, I would take out some carbs. And then I would recommend, once you figure out what a good carb ratio is for you, one of the ways you can do that is just by how you feel in the gym. If you feel like you're lethargic, if you feel like you don't have any energy, then I would say maybe you increase your carbs. Don't take them out. And then I would honestly, as far as cheat meals go, I would just play around with it. I'd say start out once a week having one on like a Saturday night, and then it's trial and error from there. You have one Wednesday night, and you have to be honest with yourself, and you have to look in the mirror and you have to say, okay, that didn't help me or that did help me. And that's a hard thing to develop. It's a hard thing to be an honest critique of yourself, because a lot of guys can't handle the fact that you can't eat cheat meals all the time. And a lot of guys will just say, oh yeah, I look fine. I can have burgers. I can have this. And that's where I think like a coach comes in handy. Like with Vinny, like if like when I am training or whatever, I just let him tell me. I don't think about it because especially when I'm carb depleted and I can't think, it's a lot easier to have somebody tell me like, okay, yeah, you look like shit. Like you can't have another cheat meal. But yeah, so it's essentially trial and error, to be honest.
I was just laughing to myself. I'm German. I'm sure it's the same with an Italian grandmother. But could you imagine having like a German grandmother as your coach? She'd be like, "Oh, you're all skin and bones. Eat, eat, eat."
Yep, that's probably the same thing. With an Italian coach, that'd be funny. Yeah, you definitely have to eat a lot.
Yeah. So Dave, tell our listeners, like, what are your stats now? Like right now, like are you planning on competing anytime soon?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So I actually spoke with Vinny a couple weeks ago, and now that I recently got married, and I had a lot of things. We needed to take 2 years off because I needed to get bigger. I did the Baltimore Pro right after I won my pro card the year later, and I needed to be a lot bigger than I was. So we knew I had to take some time off. So now I talked to him, and I don't know what I'm going to do. I haven't decided yet, but I'm definitely going to do a couple shows in 2019. And as of right now, how I am is I'm probably around 15% body fat, and my weight's around 160. It fluctuates. And to put it into perspective for you, when I was on stage, all my other shows, I would be around 138 to 140. Like I was a bantamweight, so I was little. And then on the off season, I wasn't much heavier. I would be around like 145.
What's your height?
I'm 5'4".
Okay, so that would make sense because so would you say being 5'4" is an advantage in bodybuilding versus say someone who's in your weight class who's maybe 5'10" or 5'11"?
Yeah, I think it's definitely for bodybuilding. And when I was an amateur, I think with NPC in the bantamweight class, I think was definitely it definitely helped me. However, once I turned pro and I started doing, they had the classic physique, so I started doing the classic physique. Being 5'4", it didn't really help me at all. It actually put me at a disadvantage because my first show, I was standing on stage next to guys who were like 6'5". Like there was no, and it just, even if I was, I was 140 pounds and they were probably in the 200s. I forget what the weight cap is for people that are like 6'5", but just in general, it looks funny. You have a 5 foot, I look like a midget, and then you got like, this guy next to me who's 6'5". It just looks funny. And I think it makes me look a lot smaller than I was. So that's one of the negatives. But also the classic physique guys are a lot taller. I think if I do, as I gain more mass or whatever, in the back of my mind, I always have the idea of going back to bodybuilding. And if I do, I think my height will definitely be an advantage to me again, as I know a lot of the 212 guys are a lot shorter than 6'5". So it can work out.
By the way, what's the tallest Mr. Olympia ever? Do you guys know?
I think it's Dorian Yates. I think Dorian Yates is about 5'11".
Okay.
Generally, they're all around 5'8", 5'9". I know Jay Cutler's 5'8", 5'9". Ronnie Coleman's 5'8", 5'9". I think Sean Roden's 5'8", 5'9". They're all, that's kind of like the ideal height for a bodybuilder, 5'8".
I know Lee Priest, he's not Mr. Olympia. Lee Priest, was top 5 a couple of years, and he's only 5'3", 5'4". So
yeah.
So Dave, were you working a job or in college the entire time when you're training and prepping and winning your pro card?
So so I started, when I started doing preps and all that, I was it was after college, and I was working a job. So that was another thing I had to adapt to. There was no more, waking up and like, I don't have class until 3:00. I'm going to go to the gym for 3 hours. It was more of like, okay, I have to work my ass off from, 8 to 5:30, sometimes 6:30 if I had to stay late. And then I have to, have the energy, have the motivation to not just, to not go home at the end of the day, but to go to the gym and to train with the intensity that I did when I had sleep and, less stress. And I think that was a big factor and a big adjustment for me. I was doing, I actually had just started when I was doing my second show, the East Coast Championship. I had just started a new job, and it was an office job, and it was very difficult for me to eat my meals and to get my eating schedule down, because I wasn't used to that. I was used to just being able to eat whenever I wanted, bringing my food in the car, and just getting it down to a routine. But having an office job, I had to adjust, and you had to adapt to situations and plan. You have a meeting, you got to eat earlier. You can't miss a meal. So I think that was a big learning, for me.
Dave, do you have any tips? Because I know what you're going through. Like, sometimes I have to be at the university for 6 a.m. for blood analysis. You're there all day, 4:30, 5 o'clock, whatever your end time is. The last thing you're thinking is, I want to go to the gym and train. Do you have any advice for our listeners who are, working at 8 to 5 or a 7:30 to 4:30 or whatever?
Yeah. So, I think it's very important to stay motivated and to have realistic goals. So in terms of and to plan. So what I mean by that is, you can't go to the gym and just be like, I'm going to do this, or whatever. Go with a plan. I have an hour and 15 minutes. I'm tired from work, but I have to push through it for another hour and 15 minutes and have a plan of what you're going to do so that you can focus and get it done and you're not wasting time. Because one of the issues I had was that I would go to the gym and I would be spending 2 hours there, 2.5, because I was all over the place. I had no plan. And then by the time I got home, I was exhausted, and then I hated going. So having a plan and a pre-workout, I don't care if you're somebody who, I can't have caffeine at night, I can't sleep, whatever, then get something that has a low stimulant, or amino acids or something, but have something to help you push through at night. And I would also highly recommend taking off days during the week. So what I do is I know that the weekends I'm refreshed because I'm sleeping. I have more time, and I have better workouts. So I go to the gym Saturday and Sunday. Monday I'll go after work because in the beginning of the week I'm still refreshed. I feel good. And then by Wednesday, I start feeling tired. So I usually take Wednesday off, and then I usually take Friday off. So I'm really only going to the gym 3 days a week after work. So it makes it a little easier. Now, when I'm training for a show, it'll be a little different. I'll probably be going to the gym 6 days a week instead of taking 2 days off. So, but that's just a whole different, you got to push through it at that point.
I'll give a piece of advice and I'll let Steve jump in. One thing that I find really successful is that, let's say it's Tuesday night, you're supposed to do back and you're just absolutely exhausted. Still go to the gym, do some light cardio, maybe do some stretching, and that's going to create that habit of, I'm going to go to the gym. So even though you didn't go to the gym and lifted weights, just going there will create that habit in your head that, hey, I'm going to go to the gym 3 days after work every single week or whatever. And then once you have that habit built up, then it's easier to say, okay, I'm here at the gym. I'll do a couple warm-up sets. And then once you've actually started that exercise, usually you can bust out a workout no matter how tired you are. But that's the advice I give to people is I always hear people say, oh, I'm exhausted. There's no way I could possibly go to the gym and work out. Well, still go. Maybe just do some light cardio. Maybe tell yourself, I'm going to walk on the treadmill for an hour and watch TV. Who can't do that? And then once you have that habit, then it's really easy to, convince yourself to actually get into weight training.
I would agree.
Go ahead, Dave. Mm-hmm.
No, I was just going to say, building a habit is a big part of it. So I think that's great advice.
So following up on that, building a habit, give us some advice. You're recently married. Trevor and I are not married. I'd say a lot of, most of the United States isn't married. It's the first time in our country's history. that's kind of weird. But give us some advice, those that, are in relationships or recently married or been married. How do you juggle, taking care of your, girlfriend, boyfriend, husband, wife, whatever, juggling a relationship? Is that something that, you kind of have to work on, or is that something that she's supportive of and she's kind of like, no, go ahead, and go hit the gym. I'll have dinner ready at 7. Don't worry. How do you juggle that? What's some tips on that?
Yeah. So for me, my a tip I would give is to find a girl or a man, whatever, who supports you in your endeavors and who wants you to succeed and understands that you going to the gym and you training is not neglecting them. It's just, this is your passion. This is what you love to do. And it's a part of your life. This is who you are. So they need to accept you for who you are, or else it's definitely not going to be a good relationship. I think as far as juggling both, especially with work. So that another thing comes into play where I only go to the gym 3 nights a week. And then I'm home, right after work 2 nights a week. So those are the nights where we'll have movie night and things like that, and make sure we spend time together. And on the weekends, we're always spending time together. I actually train with my wife on the weekends. We'll go to the gym together and train, and so I think it's just that you got to find the balance, and you also have to find a significant other who appreciates it and understands. And that's not so, that's not so easy. I had a girlfriend who, in college who broke up with me because she said I loved the gym more than I loved her. And you know what? She was probably right. So
at least you're honest.
Yeah. I love my wife more than I love the gym. I'll tell you that. But she accepts it and she understands. She doesn't give me shit for it. She doesn't, oh, you're going to the gym, like you need to hang out with me. No, she gets it and she accepts me. So then that makes it easy.
Where'd you meet your wife? That's a good topic.
Oh, we met at college, at the University of Scranton.
Okay. Where in college? Library, class, what?
Oh, actually, so it was, I had actually met her friends at a party, and then I met her through them at, I met her friends on Friday night at a party. And then the next night they came out with me and my friends again. And they brought my wife, now her name's Cassie. And then that's when we first met. And then we didn't start dating until a year later. And it just happened again. I saw her at a party. So, not that I condone partying or drinking, but I was in college and,
What do you do now? Obviously being, very disciplined with bodybuilding, alcohol is something you don't consume. What's your advice for, office parties, especially right now it's Christmas party time? What do you do then?
So I'm a little different. I have a little different viewpoint than most people on this. I do consume alcohol. I actually love craft beer. And I just find my balance. I don't condone going out and drinking every night or getting, drunk to the point where you're throwing up. I think on the off season, that is, I think it's okay to have a beer on the weekends, okay to have a glass of wine at a company party. I'm not saying you should have a drink every night. I'm not saying you should go crazy. If you don't want to, then don't. But I think a lot of, when I competed, and it was 3 years in a row, I was doing shows, all the time. And even if I had an off season, it was like for a few, 4 months, and it just wasn't like a real off season. And now that I had 2 years off, I realized there was all these things that I never did because of competing. I just was even on the off season, I was so strict. I wouldn't have a drink. I wouldn't do this. And I think that you need to live your life. I think that you need to enjoy yourself. I just think you need to be realistic, and you have to be very disciplined with how much you indulge in alcoholic beverages, because if you have too many, then no, it's not going to be good for you, and it's going to have negative side effects on your weight gain, negative side effects on your muscle growth. But I do not believe that having them every now and then is bad. I think it's okay.
It's really good advice, Dave. We live in a society of black and white, and I agree with you. Moderation is the right course of action, because are you never going to drink again for the rest of your life? I mean, you could, but that's pretty impractical, right? And that's the issue we have with bodybuilding, is that people view things as good or bad, right? Like, this food is bad, I'm never going to eat that bad, or whatever, right? And that's one of the issues I have with the ketogenic diet is, I think the ketogenic diet does have its merit, and especially with, trying to reverse diseases and things like that, it is very effective. But people on the ketogenic diet then demonize carbs as bad. Are you never going to eat a potato the rest of your life?
That would suck.
You know what I mean? And it's vice versa. Like, if you're on like the low fat diet, are you never going to eat a handful of almonds the rest of your life? Like, you really need to view big picture with all this stuff.
No, exactly. I think like I said, if you're somebody who, for whatever reason, you don't like carbs and you don't want to eat them, I guess fine, good for you. But I don't think that's most people. Same thing with a beer or with a glass of wine or whatever. Like, I think it would do more harm than good, because you'd be even more miserable when you were prepping if you couldn't indulge when you weren't prepping. And I think that would just have a negative effect on your mental state and your willpower. So
it works easy for me because I don't like alcohol, so I never did. I don't know. The first time I had beer, I was just like, this shit's disgusting. So it's like I haven't drank since. But tell us a little bit about. Yeah, go ahead.
No. I was just gonna say that's exactly what I'm talking about. If you don't like it, then fine. That's
Steve,
great.
Have you ever used any of the Alzheimer's drugs like Adderall?
No. Why would I?
You'd fucking love Adderall. I took half a tab once. Anyone who's like a hard worker, oh my god, like I love like the Focus and like the Focus supplements, like the enotropics.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, on Adderall, like you're so focused. I was writing lists like, I'm gonna run for prime minister. I'm gonna like don't ever try it because you'll get hooked. Like, I did it once and I'll never do it again.
Yeah.
But it's like, if you're a hardworking guy and you're someone who like likes to focus and likes organization, if you take Adderall, like, it's like the greatest thing ever.
That's funny.
I swear, guys in their 20s are like on every drug under the sun for everything. It's so funny. Like, they need a drug just to study for homework. It's like when I was in college, I had a test. I fucking studied for it. Now it's like every young kid has to take like Adderall just to study. Like, what the fuck's going on in society?
Yeah, I don't know. I when I used to study for tests, I had pre-workouts. That was what I would do. And I'd be up till like 4 a.m, and that was it. I would, I had my whole routine. I'd be up late. I'd take like 3 scoops of, Jack 3D, and, sometimes 4.
I think it's all these electronics, like iPhones and stuff, and porn, and it's just like it makes everyone like ADHD. Everyone can't focus,
I mean, that could be it. I mean,
yeah, I really do, because like these young kids, like 10, 12 years old, they're like hooked on video games now. So that's why.
Are you on Instagram, Steve? Like, you literally scroll through and it's like a different photo every second.
Yeah.
It's
no,
literally
I'm not.
Like, it's almost like.
I'm like almost 40, and like the whole social media thing, like I was too old to get into it. Like the MySpace thing, like I was like 2 or 3 years ahead of too old. Like people who were 2, 3 years younger than me got into that whole shit. So I never got into it. So plus, like, I don't like with all the like crime out there and people stealing identities. Like I don't want to do that. So. But it is what it is, that's just how it is. I feel bad for young people, to be honest with you. Like, I would hate to have all my shit out there at that age, because someone's talking shit about you. Calling you a slut. If you're a girl, if you're a guy, they're like bullying you. It's like, I would hate to be on social media. It's a good topic for Dave, because we know you're on social media. Like, do you ever get like some negative people like sending you stuff? Like, what do you think about all this in the fitness world? Like all this bullying that goes on.
So yeah, that's actually a good point. I was going to actually mention that. So I'm glad you brought it up. I personally, every now and then I'll get like some weird messages or people like, saying some negative stuff. I don't get much of that. A lot of what I get is positive, but also like, my social media, my Instagram, like what I have 1,200 followers. Like I don't have 40,000, or like 100,000 followers like some of these pro bodybuilders do. And I'm sure they get it a lot worse than I do, especially even in the comments. And I just don't agree with that. I think not even just from like, oh, don't bully people, but like for bodybuilding and people in the fitness industry, anybody in the gym, we're all there to better ourselves and to, for self-esteem, for, to obviously to grow muscle and all that, but we're all there for the same reason. And I don't agree with that. I just don't know why people would try to put other people down who are probably trying to do the same thing that they're trying to do. And I think also it's cowardly to be talking shit, via social media, even though everyone does it. And I try to stay out of that. I don't write negative comments. I don't message people negative things. And I mean, I wouldn't anyway, but I just, even if I, for some reason thought somebody looked like shit or, I wouldn't say anything, or I would say it to their face. Like, hey, like, I just want to let you know you look like shit,
Do you want to know which social media icon had the most negative comments by far? Like by a landslide, there wasn't even a comparison.
Who?
Rich Piana.
Oh, I could see it.
If you ever look at his YouTube, if you look at the comments, they're horrible. Like I'd say 95% of the comments are bad. Like you look like a freaking cartoon character. Like, can you even wipe your ass? Your arms are so full of oil. Like, but he has gone on record saying, you know what? All those haters help me, because he said the worst thing that can happen is that if I make a video and no one comments on it, I'm done. He said bad publicity is actually better than good publicity, because you have those haters and you have your fans who stick up for you. It creates traffic, and then it creates all these commas, and that video goes viral.
Yep, I remember. Now that you mentioned that, I remember I used to read not all the comments, but I would read, and I would be like, I can't believe people are saying that shit. Like, can you even wipe your ass? Like, I remember seeing all those things and just being like, shit, like, are people going to say that about me one day? Like,
well, the thing is, people look at Rich Piana. They know he was successful, super popular. He got beautiful women. He was rich. He was a huge guy. He had huge muscles and everything. So people make the assumption that they can say stuff like that to him and it won't hurt his feelings. They assume that he'll just brush it off like nothing. But we've had these people on the podcast who are really close friends with Rich Piana who said that Rich Piana was a very sensitive guy to this stuff, and he hurt. He was in a lot of pain from this negativity he had to deal with. So, like, this is something to look at, guys. Like, even in person or someone at work or someone in school that is being bullied or whatever and being put down, even though maybe they, give you shit back and stuff, at the end of the day, inside, they may be in a lot of pain, and you could be like hurting them. I look back, I bullied people like in school and stuff, years ago. And I look back and I was just like, wow, I was an asshole, because those people, even though they brushed it off, whatever, but, I wish I would have, came back. But you guys got to realize, like, these people have feelings. They're not robots. So pro athletes, same thing. I mean, these people, you talk shit to them, but if you go to a training camp and you see them in person, everyone's like kissing their ass. Oh, can you sign my, jersey? Can you sign my helmet? Can you give me an autograph? No one says shit to them in person, but they talk shit on the internet. That's the problem with the internet. That's my beef with like social media and stuff,
No, I agree. And honestly, I never had the opportunity to meet Rich, but I'm sure I've heard, and I'm sure he was a really nice guy. And it's a shame that people, feel the need to say those things like that, because if they ever, it's sometimes you might think something in your head, and then, or might think somebody's like an asshole just because of the way they look or something. And then you meet them and you end up, oh, he's actually a really nice guy. Like, and then you become friends. Like, I've had situations like that happen to me just in general, not just with bodybuilding, but in general. So I just think it's, I don't think it's okay. And I wish it would stop, but, I don't know.
You live in the Instagram generation, let's face it. Are you feeling pressure to, try to make yourself an Instagram whore and post 50 fucking things on your story every day to try to get sponsors?
I mean, I did honestly, I did at one point after I turned pro. I felt pressured to do that because I felt like all these guys who, weren't even pros, like just guys who had, 20,000 followers on Instagram, allegedly. Were they real or fake? Who knows? But all these guys had sponsorships with all these companies, and I didn't, and I was a pro bodybuilder. And then over the years, I learned and I realized I was like, it'll happen when it's supposed to happen. And there'll be a time like, 2019 when I come back and people notice me and things will happen and I'll earn it. And I'm not going to have to sell my soul to, Instagram and putting up, or buying followers or hiring people to do my marketing for me, things like that. Like, I think that it's gotten out of hand. I'm not saying that some of the people, who aren't pros and have sponsorships, I'm not saying they don't deserve it, but what I've seen, there's just a lot of people who I'm just like, how does this person have a sponsorship? And I don't, you know what I mean? This person did one show just because they have all these followers, you know what I mean? So, I mean, I think
those sponsorships is for free product. I mean, when you rep those sponsorships is just for free product. I mean, when you rep Gymshark, they're just sending you a couple tank tops and a couple, you know what I mean? Like people think that these professional bodybuilders who are sponsored by whatever are making thousands of bucks. Those days are dead. Those days are done. They're never coming back. If you're actually getting paid money, you're in like the 0.1%. Most of these sponsorships are, hey, we'll give you $500 in free product every month. You have to do a minimum of 3 posts per week. You have to post one product image in your story every single day. I mean, if you add it all up, they're paying you like $1 an hour.
Yep, that's pretty much. I mean, that's a good way to sum it up. And I started thinking about it, and I don't know, it's not worth all the stress and the hassle. Like, I have to be sponsored. When a company truly believes in you, I get my meals from meal dealers. And they, I have had a lot of companies approach me and try to give me all types of deals for food. And with meal dealers, it was a friend of mine who I had known years ago. And the company, they believe in you and they want me to do good. And they're excited that I'm going to compete in 2019 and they're happy to help me. Now, a lot of other companies I worked with, I'm not going to mention any names, but before that, it was all about, okay, hey, Savino, you didn't post, 3 posts last week, so we're not gonna hook you up with that many meals this month, or this week, or whatever. And it was more about that, and not about, okay, hey, like we want to help you succeed, we want to help you do good, because if you do good, we do good. They weren't thinking of the big picture. It was just petty things like that, and it's annoying, frustrating.
I would take a meal prep sponsorship over a supplement sponsorship any day, man.
I was just going to say, I mean, I'm very fortunate. Meal dealers, they take care of me, and I don't take it for granted. But I also help them out any way I can because I see, that they actually care about me. They're not breaking my balls if I don't post something, 1 week or whatever. It's more about just, working together for both of us to succeed, their company and for me to succeed. And I agree. I mean, I use a lot of the G-Code products. And Vinny actually introduced me to Greg, who runs the company. And I'll tell you, one of the reasons why I use their products is because Greg is a great guy, and he actually, cares about people, and it's not just about bottom dollar. I'm not sponsored by them, but I still use their products because just in general, like, he's a great guy, and it's not all about, money and, things. So.
Cool. So, we'll definitely in your show notes, link your Instagram page. You guys can kind of learn more about them. We got about 15 minutes left, but the big question is, a lot of our listeners, obviously, everyone wants to build more muscle and lose fat. I haven't, seen anyone come on the forum ever and be like, yeah, I want to put on fat and lose muscle. So give us some tips, some guys out there tips. Cause I mean, you came, from a modest background and you succeeded quite a bit. So, along the way, you've learned a lot and you've had some excellent coaches that have helped you. So give us a couple of tips on diet and a couple of tips on training that guys can adjust, that you feel like, when you're at the gym or, you talk to friends what they're eating or whatever, that they're doing wrong, that they can fix. Easy fixes. They get their shit on the right track to build more muscle, lose fat.
Okay. Yep. That's a good question. So in terms of diet, so I would say that you got to get, I tell a lot of people this, you can't get bigger and get cut at the same time. So I would recommend that you focus on one or the other. And now in terms of gaining more muscle mass, I would say you're still eating your meals, 6 meals a day, protein, veggie, and carbs. But I would have, 1.5 or 2 cups of carbs with each meal. And the carbs I would use would brown rice, sweet potato, or regular or red potatoes or regular potatoes. And that's what I would do because you're eating more food, you're eating more carbs, you're going to gain more weight, you're going to gain more muscle. You're not eating, burgers and McDonald's and all this crap all day. So you're going to minimize the fat intake. I would also recommend still doing cardio on the off season. Like I still do 15 minutes, before or after, usually 3 or 4, days a week before or after my workouts. And that'll also help minimize, your, how much fat you gain, and help you keep on the muscle. So as far as cutting goes, when you decide that you want to cut and you want to minimize how much muscle you're losing, what's always worked for me has been, just carb cycling, doing a simple, like a rotation of low carb day, like 1 day low carbs, and then 3 or 4 days high carbs, seeing how that goes for a couple weeks, and then going, 3 days of low carbs, and then just 1 day of high carbs for 4 or 6 weeks. And so it's been a method that has worked for me, and also adding in, double or even triple the cardio when the time comes. So those are simple, but yet effective methods that I would recommend anyone tries before they go crazy and, trying to find all different diets on the internet and all different things. Like I would go and try those. So
what about at the gym? What are some people doing wrong at the gym? Because a lot of people, they really try. I mean, they go to the gym 3, 4, 5 times a week for an hour, and maybe they're not getting the results. Like, what are something that they can maybe do that they're doing wrong, or what are something they can do different to kind of get some results going?
So there's a few things. So I would say the one thing is a lot of people are doing the same thing, and the muscles are getting used to it. So a lot of guys are coming into the gym doing the same routine, the same workouts, week after week after week after week. They're getting stronger, but they might not be seeing the results that they want to see, and it's because the muscle's getting used to it. So I would recommend always switching up your workout, what you do, the exercises you do, and the rep ranges and the intensities. Some days you go in, you're going to do, high reps, 20 reps. Other days go in and just do 8 reps and focus on lifting a little heavier. Always switch it up and keep your muscles guessing. Keeping your muscles guessing, they're going to grow. That's always been something I lived by, and it's always worked out for me. And that was by trial and error. I didn't always, train that way. Another thing is I think a lot of people in the gym, especially with social media and everything, they want to film themselves like lifting all this heavy weight. I'm the strongest person. I benched, 500 pounds, regardless of the fact that they're not, going down all the way or any, and they're doing half reps. But I think that a lot of people don't have the mind-muscle connection. For me, when I'm in the gym, it's a big factor is my focus. And that's why I have headphones. That's why I don't talk to people, because really focus on feeling the squeeze and feeling the muscle. And that's one thing that actually Vinny, pointed out to me because I would train and I would be throwing weight around and not necessarily always focusing and feeling the muscle move and work. And when you do that, you might not be able to lift as heavy or show off on social media, but you're going to shock your muscle and you're going to work it better and it's going to grow. So those are some of the big things I see going on in the gym. Another thing is I think a lot of people just half-ass it. They just don't, there's guys who just don't work hard. Like they say they've been going to the gym, they say they've been doing everything, but like, I watch them in the gym. Are they really training hard? No, they're like, all right, I'm doing, a set of 8 and that's it. I'm going to do this. Like they're nonchalant about it. And if you really want to grow, you really want those results, you're not just doing 8 reps. You're not stopping when you start feeling a little burn. You're doing 10 reps after that burn. You're doing 20 reps after, you're taking it to the next level because that's how you're going to grow. And I mean, you've heard the saying, no pain, no gain. And it's true. You're not in the gym and, never feeling sore, never feeling that, lactic acid buildup, the burning. No, you're feeling that and you have to push through it and keep going. And then you're going to grow.
That's a good point. I was going to say that's a good point because I was working out with someone and they were doing some ab crunches. They're like, oh, I feel it burning. And they stopped. They stopped their set. And I'm like, you're supposed to feel the burn. It's like, keep going, but they're just like, some people just don't grasp that. Yeah, so that's a really good point. Go ahead,
what
Trevor.
I was going to say is my grandma used to brag about going to the gym every day. She'd tell all of her ladies at church, I go to the gym every single day. I never miss a day. She'd ride the bike for 20 minutes and sit in the hot tub for half an hour. To be fair, I mean, when you're 70, like if you're just going to the gym, like that's an accomplishment. But yeah, she'd ride the bike for like maybe 20 minutes while watching Days of Our Lives and then sit in the hot tub for half an hour.
Hey man, when I'm 70, I'll probably be doing the same thing.
I'm gonna be the old naked guy in the gym locker room, just walking around, shredding my stuff.
Yep. Yeah. Oh yeah. Love those guys.
Look, a lot of people just like going to the gym just to get away from home. I mean, you got an annoying roommate at home. You just want to get the fuck away. So that's their way. Yeah, go ahead. I was going to say, also, Dave, finish that with your thought, but also tell us motivating. What are some motivating factors in your life? Like for me, nice music, like some new music that I hear on Sirius Satellite. I'll come home, download it, stick it on my thing, take it to the gym with me. That shit pumps me up. Like what are some motivating tips that you can give people? Go ahead.
Yeah, especially now that you're married. Because, I mean, me and Steve, we want to get bitches. So, like, that's why we go. But you're married. So what's your motivation?
So that's a really good point. So my motivation comes from a few different places. So guys like obviously like Vinny, seeing him come back the way he has, and he's 51 and he looks great, and he had shoulder surgeries and he's still pushing through. So that's a motivation for me. Another motivating factor, my wife has type 1 diabetes. So seeing over the years, her struggle and her will to continue to be healthy and continue every day to stay healthy, keep her sugars in range, and to see all the hardship she goes through with that, but she still stays positive and is still motivated to be healthy. That motivates me. And then, so another thing is just to better myself. I think back when I, first decided I wanted to meet Vinny and decided I wanted to compete. And I think to myself, what if you didn't do that? Okay. So that's what I'm always thinking to myself. What if I didn't go? What if I decided to stop lifting and not go to the gym? It's not going to happen, because I know that 3 years from now, 4 years from now, 5 years from now, I'm going to look back at those moments where I thought about stopping or thought about not, continuing to train. And I'm going to be like, thank God that I decided to keep going, because look at all I did. Look at how I succeeded. So my motivating factor, I guess, single guys, you go in that you want to get the girls, and that's great. I was the same way in college. So I understand that, but now it's turned into more of a, I want to see how far I can get. I want to see how successful I can be, and how much I can better my physique. And then I have obviously music. I think that's a big part of it too. You got to get in your zone. I mean, honestly, the days, most of the time, I don't even know what songs I listen to because I'm so focused on the training. The days when I actually know what songs are on, those are the days where I don't train that well because my focus isn't there. I'm not in the zone, quote unquote. And then I usually, take an off day because I know that I need a little break.
I think most guys get into weight training for egotistical reasons, right? They want to look good with their shirt off. They want to get girls or anything like that. Then once they start weight training, they realize how much more they get out of it. They realize, the self-fulfillment you get out of it. And we all have stress in life. It doesn't matter every person has stress. It doesn't matter what you do for a living, whether you're a student, whether you're working, whether you're married, whether you're single. And I think the biggest benefit of weight training is that that's the time you can turn your brain off, and it can just be that stress outlet for you.
Yep. That's a big factor. Releasing stress, and also just, like you said, turning your brain off and getting away from everything. That was always a big thing for me. I never wanted to be bothered in the gym. I turn my phone off. I don't talk to anybody. I'll say hi to people occasionally, but I think that's a big part of it. And that was a big part of it, for me as well. Probably, to be honest with you, probably even more so than the egotistical side of it. That was a factor, but I just wanted to be there and just, get away from everybody, everything. Just leave me alone. This is my time. I'm in a gym. You know what I mean?
I really feel like the gym environment is so crucial too if you really want to take shit to the next level. Because I'm working out now at some old folksy, gym, and it's like I go in there, there's like 2 or 3 old people there, and it's just like I can't push, So I went from being at a meathead gym. I go there, there's fucking some like serious fucking people there, and that shit pumps me up. You walk in there, you got the environment. Everyone's serious, most of the people there are serious. The ones who aren't just know to stay the fuck out of your way. Do you notice the same thing? Like, what kind of gym are you working out at that you find the most success?
Yeah. So I started out working, I would work out at just, one of the chain gyms back, when I was training for shows. And then over the years, once I was training for nationals, I realized, you got to be at a gym, and the environment is very important. I would train at Vinny's gym at the time, the training station. And, you could train to that point of, exhaustion. You could scream if you had to on your last 3-4 reps. And there would be people there screaming for you to keep going. And I think that's the type of environment you need to be in for, to take it to the next level. I'm not saying you should be screaming every second, but I think you have to be at a gym where it's okay if, you're in a lot of pain and you let out some grunts and towards the end of the reps. And so right now I'm training at a Gold's gym in my area, and, you have the serious lifters, but there's also, honestly, there's also a lot of people there's older people who go there. And so it's not just like hardcore lifters, but it's also not just a few old people, like you said. So you got to find you got to have people there to motivate you.
One of my favorite memories is that I used to work out at Hardcore Gym, and my friend Noel, I was in engineering with him. He wasn't into lifting weights or anything, and he really wanted to get into it. So I'm like, yeah, sure, you can come if you want to come work out with me. So we're doing legs, and he's on the hack squat. And he's literally screaming at the top of his lungs, "Fuck me, Jesus! Fuck me, Jesus!" And the entire gym is staring at us on the hack squat. any other gym but hardcore gym, we would have both been like banned on the spot. But yeah, it was.
They'll go to Planet Fitness and do that.
Oh my God.
And the funny thing is, he's just this like scrawny 120-pound guy. He's got like tens on each side. And he's just like screaming at the top of his lungs. Like, Dave, finish up the show letting us know what are your plans on your next competition.
So I'm thinking I'm gonna try to do a show early, in early 2019 in the spring or the summer. I don't know what show I'm gonna do yet. I'm gonna decide that after Christmas. I've given myself till after Christmas, and then I'm gonna start thinking about it. But you will see Dave Savino on the pro stage in 2019. That you can be sure of.
Drop your Instagram. I'll also have it in the show notes for our listeners.
Okay. It's Davey Vanes, wait, what is it? I gotta look.
It's Davey Vanes _ IFBB Pro. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Where'd you get Davey Vanes? Why isn't your Instagram like Dave Savino?
I always had Davey Vanes. Actually, my dad came up with that name. People used to call me Vanes because when I shred down, I have, veins popping all over the place. So I got that nickname in college when I trimmed down. And then my dad, one day I was at dinner with Cassie, actually, the first time that she met my parents. And I was talking about, I'm going to be a bodybuilder. And then my dad just all of a sudden was like, yeah, you're going to be Davey Vanes. And I said, oh, I kind of like that. And then I, made it my Instagram, and then it just stuck. And then so now it's Davey Vanes _ IFBB Pro. You were right.
Okay. Well, we'll be seeing Davey Vanes on a pro show sometime next year. For your host, Trevor Kouritzin, and for my co-host, Steve Smee, this has been another episode of Evolutionary Radio. Live your life. Look good doing it. Thanks for listening.